So now I will show you like how to work on this one. Whenever you're working, directly we can work with the basic Python, whichever is there. If you are in a Windows, you can say like where Python. You will understand where the Python is installed. Within my system, there are two types of Python which are installed. One is the Windows app. The other one is the Windows which Python which I installed. So we can create virtual environment also and use it. Virtual environment can be created with the Python module called as virtual env. So like that we create a .env file and we use it. So that's how we create. Then the second one is like using pip.env. And the third one is like using poetry. So pip.env I showed, the virtual environment I told. Now the third one is poetry. So which one to use? It's up to you. If you use virtual env, we have something called as requirements.txt, where you create this file and maintain it up to date of all the dependencies. But if you have any dependencies to sub-dependencies, let's say you are using Pandas. Pandas is using NumPy in the backend. NumPy is using some other module in the backend. So when you are making some change, you should know the exact versions of all the sub-modules which are used, right? If anything has any issue, so you cannot move ahead, especially when you are in a banking sector or somewhere. If you have any module and it has a deep dependency of any one small module which has a security issue, they don't even allow you to push them ahead to the next thing. So that's why you should have an audit of every things. So that's the reason they go with like pip.env or poetry or this kind of things. There are many other things, but these were like most famous. And if you can start a virtual environment, so same here also. So pip install, whenever you want to install, this is one thing you need to remember. So the pip version I want to do with the latest. Setup tools I want to update. Setup tools is something which is related to the Python related, you can think. With respect to the operating system, certain things it will update. It's better for us. And after that, we need to have poetry. So as we are doing at the global level, I use -- user. Means for this user only I want to do. If I am doing the same pip installs within the virtual environment, I need not give this -- user flag. And of course, this user flag is needed whenever you don't have the entire access to your system permissions. So if you are okay, you have permissions, then you not give. But this is how we generally do. It's a best practice. So now what happening? It is installing the setup tools. It is already there, so that's why it didn't update else. But others it has updated and it is using. Next, if you're saying like it is installing everything, so all were installed, latest modifications are there, everything is fine. But it's saying that hey, so still the Python pip version was not updated. If you want, you can try it. If I do like small version also, means -u capital U or -- upgrade, both are same. So in fact, it's doing the same thing. Pip install also it is taking. After these installations, now everything was latest, right? So this is the best practice, in fact, whenever you're working on anything. Because after you start a project, if you update the requirements, if something fails, you need to modify the entire code, right? That's the reason before starting any project, you ensure that all your dependencies or basic things were up to date. So using the latest versions such that you don't have any problem subsequently. So now the latest versions were there. Now, if I say like pip list, at my operating system level, a lot of modules were installed. Of course, I use for different purposes. So primarily we need to look for the poetry, which is installed or not. You see, for poetry, when I installed, it has some sub dependencies also, it installed it. Okay. Now, using poetry, I need to create a new environment. So if I say poetry init, if I say, it will init, means it will create a new thing. So if you see, it is asking, hey, what do you want to create? So it is saying package name as DataFrames. Do you want to create with the same name? Because under DataFrames, I am there. Okay, I want to create version, some description about it. If you want to add like, So say working with say pandas data frames I want to do. So do you want to save the author, or if you want to skip an author? So if I just do enter, it will just do Python versions, any dependencies if you want to do interactively. If you don't specify them, all will be coming defaults. So these were some of the best practices, in fact. After doing all these things, if I just do enter, then it will create a toml file. So till now you are seeing YAML files and others, right? Like that there is toml file. So it will have the basic information of all this information like this. So only this, when you created like poetry in it, so this file is generated. But virtual environment is not created. If you see anywhere, no file is there. So then how do you start it? Anytime when you want to start, first we need to have a toml file. For that only you did poetry in it. Then poetry. So we should say shell. If I say poetry shell, then it will create a virtual environment. Did you see where it is creating the virtual environment? In my app data. See, remember this app data folder is most critical. So all your in your app data only it will create. Similarly, in Mac also same thing, Linux also. In that local cache poetry virtual environment. So the beauty of going for any of these modules, so frameworks like PP and VR poetry is that the virtual environment will not sit in your location. You need not worry like, why this virtual environment is in my code, because that is not your code, right? And unfortunately, you need not, if you have touched on it, again, your binders will change. To avoid all these things, in a central location, they'll place all these virtual environments. Whenever you create it, so it will create with this name. It will create a thing called as pd.Frame. See here. So whatever your project name is there, with that it will create. Next time when you are doing like again a poetry shell after like closing the laptop and opening restarting system. So before if it's creating in that location, it will check with this name. Hey, do we have any virtual environment with b underscore data frame? Yes, I have. Then it will use it. If not, then it will create it. So after creating it, did you see these braces are coming? Means it has activated. So if I'm in Python Windows, I can say where Python. Did you notice now? It is showing like 3 paths to you. So the moment I did. So this is my main virtual environment. And apart from the basic things are also there. And similarly, if you are in Linux, we can use like which Python. Of course, I can use both commands here. That's the reason I'm doing. But that is how we do. After this, like, okay. So you understood about the virtual environment. Now, what is that you want to work here? I want to work with pandas. So how do you install? Till now, you are doing like pip install. So, but here we should not do pip install. Even in pipenv also, after activating, so you configured the pipenv and you did pip install only. But for poetry, instead of installing directly, we should say pip poetry add any module. Say if I want to work with NumPy. So because like pandas also need NumPy in the backend. Say like if I say pandas. If you say poetry add pandas, it will take initially some time to understand, hey, where is the poetry, and it will try to install it. You see now, it is executing. Somewhere it got an error. Some measures an error somewhere, the DLL something. Sometimes it happens. So installing all these things. I repeat again. Yeah, now it's fine. Did you see now? Now it has created, right? If you can notice, this is your main toml file created. After that, this Python version is there. Now you see pandas version is there. So in pipenv, what happened when you install? If you don't specify version, it will not say just star. Whereas poetry not like that. Even if you don't specify version, also whatever the version it is having, it will mention that. And this symbol, so top means like, this arrow up means specific version only. If I say like less than that version, greater than that version, or equal to, you do right. Instead of equal to, they write in the top symbol, this caret symbol means like equal to this version, like that. See, I added pandas, but if you can see, like, so within this, so pip list, if I say, means within the virtual environment, it will list all the modules which are installed. By default, for this, whenever you have installed, apart from like the basic Python, it will install poetry and all dependency related things. You should see all of them, but it's taking like quite some time. You see here? Did you see in the process when we installed pandas, but we didn't install NumPy. But NumPy is a dependency to it. So did you see how it has managed it? As you didn't explicitly write, you don't use it. So that's the point here. And here there is one more file called as poetry log. And this poetry log will make a note of every module which is there. So did you see it has a NumPy file? So, and all the things, right? What are the modules you have? Everything, NumPy, pandas, and it will make use of date utils. So dependencies, all these things are there. Whatever it is needing, it will make use of it. As you didn't explicitly mention, you didn't have. So if I say like now, if you want to do like poetry, the add of say NumPy if I want to do, because NumPy also we need on a daily basis. See, the moment I added, as this module is already added, it instead of installing, it made here itself directly. Did you see how fast it is? Because the module is already there in the part of dependencies. That's why it is already installed. So instead of reinstalling, it will just paste it. So next, for the visualization purpose, we will make use of something called as matplotlib. So poetry, add matplotlib. This is another module which will use it. So for that we can see. You see, one more module I am doing. So for that module, it will do and check. It has these kind of dependencies are there. All of them it is installing. It will mention only that module name. So like that, you got all the modules which are installed. Now you understood, right? How to create a poetry virtual environment, how to work with it, and all this information. Now the next part here is that in terms of working with these things, so how do you get these values? Okay, if I want to create a new data frame, says how do you create? Say like my file, say my file dot ipynb. Okay, something ynb I create. I created a new file. Now with this file, if I want to work, how do you do? So what is the process in general when you're working? The moment you created a Python file, you need to select the kernel. So when you selecting the kernel, it will ask like, so hey, do you want to select anything? If you are see now I just activated it, right? That's why it is recognizing. So did you see that b underscore data frames so and so? This is the virtual environment which I created. So that's why I can use it directly. So once I created it, so I can start working here. Within this also I can ask like, hey, so where Python if I ask. So what all the yeah, you see here for the first time it will ask the ipynb kernel package to be installed, because that is needed by this Jupyter Notebook extension of VS Code. But is it the only way we work with the Jupyter Notebooks? No. So there is a traditional way in which people work. So for that, you need to come to the terminal. We need to work with a notebook. There is something called as notebook. If I say notebook in any directory, it will go to that directory and do it. In this current directory only, I want to do notebook. Say notebook if I do. If it says this exam error, don't worry. You just say like Python -m. So it is saying no module name notebook. Now, so poetry, add. So we need to have like IPython and like notebook, right? So Jupyter is one thing. Jupyter. Jupyter is a module which is like update to that thing, which will add this notebook information. So once you get it, we can activate and use it. Notebook in the browsers. So for a moment it is taking. So it is having a lot of dependencies. See here. So it is pulling all that things which is it needs. And from there we can get what we want. Okay, once it is done. So now we can make use of it. So now I this. So I want to use it. Instead of working directly, I want to create the one uh, folder structure and I want to use it. Say like Python -m notebook if I do, or just notebook if it works. It will create a Jupyter uh, hub server actually. Means a Jupyter server will be created, launched, and you can see the things in the browser. And in due course, I think it's taking a bit slow today. In due course, like I want to add a couple of files so that we can do the processing immediately. Yeah. Yes. So it has started, and yeah, see here, it created update, read the migrations to the so and so. It is saying please update the migration 7 for any breakages if it need. And it is saying that a Jupyter notebook is created. And if you want to update also, you can update to the latest 7 is there. It is saying fine. So this URL, it is created. So by the time itself, it will automatically open in a browser. You need not worry. But if it didn't open, just you can copy this link and open. That's it. If you open, if I re-navigate there to show you, you see, it is saying some new things came like that. Fine. You see, these files are there. Just now I copy pasted here. What are the files are there? I can execute it. So here also, it's a way we can create a file. So just now we created a file like that, right? Here also I can create another file. So if I want to create, I can click on that Python and it will create a new file. In my system, it's taking like more time for processing, but generally should be fast enough. Yeah. So now I can work on it. So if I say like which Python or like where Python, you can notice what all commands are there. So import pandas as pd. So like whatever, so the operations you want to do, you can work on it. So not only that, if you want to work on, so one more thing, important thing you need to observe is that, say I worked on this file, right? If I want to rename, so after opening, in the top itself, I can write, say another file dot. If I write anything like, it will save with a .ipynb extension. And similarly, so it is creating like a new file. Yeah, so new file it has created. And after creating, like if I do some actions, say where Python, it has created something. And if I want to save, every time remember, okay, this is something called a save and checkpoint. You remember previously we created and we didn't close it, right? We just closed here in the top instead of automatically saving and doing. So that's the reason previous data, whatever I did was gone. So that's why you should be careful. In Jupyter Notebook, periodically there will be some checkpoint will happen. At the same time, you should do this checkpoint. Means whenever your execution is happening, suddenly after some time, if you want to save it, you should say like this control S or save and checkpoint. The moment I did a save and checkpoint, it will store a reference of it. such that next time when I'm opening, safely it will open. If you see again, if I open this another .py, so it is having now. Previously it is not there, right? That's what you remember. At the same time, it will create some kind of metadata also. Means in your code, when you are going, say in my code, it will create one more directory called as IPAYNB checkpoints. So what are the files I executed? So it will be there. Earlier for the Nightingale I worked, that's why the Nightingale is there now. But now I created this another file, right? So what are the checkpoints we created? For that it will have a reference. It is a metadata, you need not worry, but it is how it is there. Now coming back to this environment where you are part of, say, hope you remember I told all the sequence of events. If I go to this directory, say we worked on like flattening the contents, loading the data, so selecting a particular data sets, and like flattening a JSON. So till that we have seen. And if I work on like sorting the content, so here also the same thing. If you say it will take the data set from somewhere and the read file. So what are the data you have? And you told you told about read, right? If I say 3 means 3 rows. If I don't give any number for the head, it will by default read. So 5 values. And from this data set, if I want to sort the values, I can say sort values. If you want to sort by a single column, you give the column. If you want to sort by more than one column, give all the columns in a list of values. Then you want to do sorting by ascending or descending order, you give that information. So I want to do sorting by IMDb. So score ascending equal to false. So like that I did it. Okay. So head of 10. So initially let me run it. Okay. So if I execute, yeah, fine. You see here, it has sorted all the values by IMDb score. As I did ascending equal to false. When ascending equal to false means what happens? It will do descending, right? So that's the reason you got descending order. 9.5, 9.3, 9.2, 9.1, 9.0 like that. And in that descending order, you are asking head of 10. So that's why it gave head 10 values. If you don't give that, it will just give a data frame. That's it. That a data frame was created. And again, the sorting values will not be in place. If you want to do sorting and the sorting changes will apply on the database, we should say in place equal to true. For every attribute, it's like that only. If you add like in place equal to true, what are the changes happening will be on the data frame. And after that, if I do dot head, did you see that original data frame is not changed? So that's what I told. And similarly, this time, if you want to do the sort by 3 values together, you want to do means in the avatar. So A for avatar means the sorting also will happen in this order only. First column it will sort. So column means like alphabets, right? Alphanumeric. So A will come first. So within those, for the same A, if there are 2 people, then within that it will give the highest IMDb score in the top, like that. So within those, if there is a title, so like that it will give. So order will be in whatever you give, in that order only the sorting will happen. But with together it is happening. And similarly, you see in this case, I am doing the sorting, but like if I say same thing previously, but if I say in place equal to true, then what are the changes are happening will happen on the system. That's the reason after doing this operation, it is not returning anything. So again, if you ask a data frame and ask, you will see it. And you see here, you got the results, whatever you want. And similarly, if you do like sort values, so by is an optional. If you don't give anything also, by default, it will take like that only. So, but like if you want a specific values, you can specify. And you see here, this time I want to do with 3 columns, like that. And not only that, there is, in addition, there is one more point to say. I don't know what is this, but yeah. If at all, if you want to do sorting by multiple columns, this is one of the interesting point. What if you want to do sorting by multiple columns, but in multiple orders? So what is the way? If you want to do like that, say I have like multiple columns I want to sort with. Say take the example of, yeah, this example. I want to take this example and I want to do the sorting. But this time I want to sort with two columns, but in a different order. Means I want in a descending order for the IMDb score and ascending order for the year title. Like that, if I want to do, I can do like this. If I pass two values, then it will execute. Okay. So if I execute it, it will do it. But like I didn't start the data frame from the starting, right? It will throw, I don't know what is this data frame. Yes, from the starting, we need to load again. I think like we have navigated so far away here. So all the data set we need to do and do. So if I do it, it will work. And similarly, if I go ahead into the filtering part, after the sorting, so we have filtering. If I have filtering, if you see, I have a data set now. So I take in some values here. And in that I have columns means I got it, right? So, and if I want to do logical operations, hope you remember even the series also I did in the same way. If you want to filter some values, we can give a condition. You see here, of data frame is equal to Cameron, James Cameron, dot head I'm saying. So then for each of the values, so it will give head means by default 5 values. For the 5 values, it will say, so whether the director name in that column is, so in that row is like, so James Cameron or not. So based upon these values, if you want to get the values, means this is like applying a condition on a data frame for filtering. So if you apply condition for whomever this condition is true, you get only those values. So that's the reason you got only James Cameron movies right now. So it's interesting. Similarly, so if I want to like find movies with IMDb greater than 9, so within these movies, I can check like IMDb movies of greater than 9. If I say, I'll get only the movies whose IMDb score is greater than 9.5. 9, sorry. So again, if you have like multiple conditions, we can use ampersand symbol. So based upon how you want to do. If it is an and, you do like this. Or means you have a pipe operator. So as both should be done, so you gave it. So that's the reason duration should be less than 90 and greater than 60. Means like between these two. So that's why you got all the values like this. As I did like head, just head, I got 5 values. If I give more, I will get it. But in general, the result you can apply to another data frame and store and do something. And similarly, if you want to filter all the sci-fi movies, so you can say like, I'm just addressing to a column and getting. So we can get a column with a dot operator also, but the only catch is that the column should not have any any spaces in middle. If there are any spaces, you cannot do. That's the reason for that we need to have like a dictionary. How do you do index? Like that we do. And similarly, see here, I wrote a function. This is for the first time. Earlier, how I applied a condition. So as these conditions are very simple, we can just write like that. Greater than something, less than something. So greater than or equal to, or what our conditions may be. But in real world, things will not be that simple, right? Say like, if you want to check something is a prime number or not, you cannot write all the prime number code there in one line. So we need to have function. So for those things, we need to have function. Even this logic is simple. So I'm saying like, so there is if there is sci-fi within the X, then return so and so. I am taking the genre. So if you see the genre is having like multiple values. See, in this case, if you understand, it is not like a simple filtering. It is like not a number, right? To check. Within this entire string, somewhere there should be like a sci-fi. So in this case, we cannot just take directly. So that's the reason for this genre, if you see, it has sci-fi somewhere. And if I want to filter, and I'm passing every value, and in that value there is a sci-fi, then return true, else false. Like that I am doing. So as you have a function, then for a column, you are taking dot apply of this function. You know, means you don't pass anything like a function call. The function means like what is this X going means? This column value, each of the value in this genre will go to this function and you will get a return of true or false. So based upon that, if you want to work, so you can do like this. Similarly, if you see here, Now, based upon these conditions, apply, and I'm asking head. So now, did you see you got all the movies who has the genre as like sci-fi genre? Similarly, if you say like the total number of sci-fi movies that you want, finally you filtered some result, right? That result. So after applying this function, I'm doing dot sum, dot average. So all these things I told. So statistical tools. So you can do all the mean, median, all the values. So this is how you get the sum. And similarly, length means total values. Sum means like count. So combining, right? So totally how many rows which have this called as sci-fi is applied. And see, after applying, how many are filtered finally? Hope you understood the difference. If we just apply something, you got like 509, so 5043 means like I applied for all the values. Some are like true or some are false. But totally I got this many length. But if I pass this, what are the filtering thing? You see here, within this data frame, if I pass this filtered thing here, hope you understood now. The condition you apply to the data frame main, then you got it. Then finally you got after filtering these many values. So that's the difference between these two. Next, after this, you can go for aggregations, groups, and others. Let's say if I go for aggregations. So if I have some movies and I'm getting like with two columns from it. So from this main data frame, I am taking only two columns, and those two columns only I'm overwriting. Means in this data frame, even if I have other columns also, I'm just excluding them. So don't you think like that? So after getting these two columns, I am doing for these two columns dot count, means how many rows are there. So dot count or length, both will do the same thing. And similarly, if I say sum, I got the total values together. As I did for the duration sum, all the durations it has added. And if I say like a minimum duration, 7 minutes, maximum duration, so these many minutes, I don't know which is that movie that big. So mean duration is like 104, 7. And like describe means I told, right? Describe will give the all the statistical things together at one place. And similarly, if I go for the group, aggregations means the total summations, group, all these things. Whereas specifically in group, this is one thing we need to understand. So you created something. So this is one thing we have like director names, movies. So movie Facebook like something. imdb.group by of director name. So if I do a group by, what do you mean by group by? So just imagine like this director, Christopher Nolan, has like one movie called as Dark Knight. It has these many likes. So James Cameron has Avatar, these many likes. So again, Christopher Nolan has the Dark Knight rights. So these many likes. So again, James Cameron has this many things. Now, if I say like director wise, you need to give the list of movies. Means for each of the director, how many movies are there? You want to, I need to get a list. In those cases, we need to go for group by. Even in SQL also, we can do the same thing. The same thing we can use in Pandas with a group by. After doing like this, then what will happen? So it will first create a group. And if I do dot sum, then did you notice now? By Christopher Nolan. So how many movies are there? Dark Knight is there, Dark Knight Rises is there. Two movies are there. You got all the values. And like, if there are strings, they will concatenate. If there are numbers, they will be added. That's the reason, see here, Christopher Nolan has like Dark Knight Rises and Dark Knight Rises are there. So when as both are strings, string concatenation happened just side by side. Whereas if there are movie likes, then you got like this one and Dark Knight Nights. Together they were added and you got like this. Similarly for James Cameron, there is Avatar and Titanic. You see here, James Cameron has Avatar and Titanic, two values. And the values were like summed. So like that, so the first row, director will have like only one column now. So sorry, unique values of directors will come. For each of them, other values will be summed. So that is the aggregation concept. After doing a group by, you need to ask whatever you want. Say if I do a sum, After that, if I do sort values by movie likes, means the end results of this sum were like sorted by this movie likes. Generally, it will go in ascending order. So that's why least likes you got first, highest you got last. So compared to so all these movie, so Kunchako, this guy has a lot of likes. Fine. Similarly, if I do like ascending equal to false, then it will do in a reverse order. So like this, you can do the grouping. And also this group aggregations, if I go further, there are other things also. Yeah, so other examples also to say, yeah, apply. If I go for this apply, you can notice that, see, I took a data set which has a movie titles, gross is there, some values, and movie IMDb links. So if I do like info, so the difference between info and describe is that info will give the entire columns and what are those data types, how many non-null values, what are their individual data types, everything it will give. Whereas describe will give the statistical things like mean, median, all these things. So 25 percentile value like that. Whereas shape will give the how many rows and columns are there. This is for every data frame. When you are describing, first to understand it, these are the very three things which you need. And if I ask columns, I get all the list of columns. And in that, if I'm interested only in the gross column, I can give it. I got the gross values. And if I do a head of 3, I got 3 values. And see here, I have a function. So where I want to convert these to millions. This is a very big number, I cannot understand. So that's why I want to divide by some value and convert to millions. You see, for this column, imdb.gross equal to gross.apply of 2 million. So apply is a function for applying any function to the any column. So the result again, if you want to assign to the same thing, it's up to you. So I want to assign again to it. Now, did you see? Earlier you got a big number. Now it is in millions. That's why it is 760 million, 309 million, so 200 million. It's easy for us to speak also. So next, so I have a big URLs also. So the IMDb movie link means this column if I address, I get the head of 3 values. So if I have a big value, I want to replace with something. Means I don't want this title because everything is common, right? imdb.com/title. So then like I replaced it. You see, this is kind of cleansing whenever you're working with anything. So this is a cleansing function which I applied. Now did you see? Instead of the entire URL coming unnecessarily, so you can focus exactly on what you need. Now you can take an assignment that like after this you got a reference which is like every time same. You want to remove that reference. How to remove the extra reference at the end? You can create like one more function for the same and do it. So you see like define. So clean URL. So clean URL you can say if you are given a URL, so you want to clean it. Means like the moment the question mark is coming right after that you don't want anything else. Then you can say like so return so URL dot split by this slash and a question mark together. You want to split and you want return only the 0th value. So like that you can do. Now what you can do for this, you have these movie links that you want to update. So df underscore imdb of, I can specify that. So like this dot also I can go, like this also I can go. So is equal to, so df underscore imdb dot apply of what is the function that you want to apply. For this column you want to apply, right? So I can say like clean URL. That's it. So after doing that, if I ask, hey, so this data frame, so not only that, the entire thing you can ask data frame dot head. If I ask, it will execute. You can run it. So it will clean everything and you get the final results. Similarly, if I go for like merging data frames, if I go for like merging data frames, so let me clean the others, close other tabs to the right. Yeah. So merging the data frames, visualization, saving data, cleaning up, time series solutions like that. If I just walk through them, you see here, so I have some data sets. I'm reading some customers. I got some customer information. I want to load the data. I'm loading it. Now see here. If you want to know more about the SQL joins, there is a very good website for you to understand. There they will show you like how things are going. I think they changed the domain to it something else. So means like some people will buy these domains. So these talent people have bought that. So earlier the SQL joins are there. So or else if you ask like SQL joins, you'll understand. SQL joins if I ask, typically go for images where you will better understand. So SQL join means if there are multiple tables, how they are joining it. So the left table, all values, right table, only common values, like that. So the joins will work. So of course that is out of our context, but like to see when you are joining two tables, how do you join? If both tables means like two data frames are there, if you want to join, if two data frames are of same schema, then we can use concat. If two tables are of different schema, then we can use merge or join. Merge is the most common thing used. When you are merging, see if there are two data frames, see here, customers I have, orders I have. See here, I have customers is there, orders is there. And what is common between these two? There is a customer ID, and here also customer ID is there, right? So don't you think that this is common? So we need to combine these two means like with respect to this column only we need to do. So I will do like that. So left, what should be there? Customers. Right, orders. And what column? Customer underscore ID. If there are two columns, means like here, its name is some customer ID. Here is something else, some other ID it is there. Assume different names are there. Then we should say like left on what is the column name, right on what is the column name. If the name is same, then we can say just on is equal to. And how we need to join, like inner join, outer join, like that, we need to specify. Next, after mentioning it, did you see now all the values you got together for the given customer ID? What are the so first name, last name? See here, in the first table, you have like first name, last name, customer ID. These three you got, and the remaining you have order ID, order date, and amount. Order ID, order date, and order amount. So those three columns you got, these three columns you got. So combine, right? This is how you join the data. Similarly, so next, after joining, if you want to do a group by, so you by customer ID, you want to get something. So we see here, for the same customer, you got like twice, right? You want uniquely all the amounts by customer. Then you can group and you can do a sum and you get like the summation. Means I told, right, with respect to customer ID, all other columns will be summed up. And if the names are like common, then nothing will happen. If they're different, they will add it. You see now, you see by customer ID, now you can see that it was happening. And similarly, this is something like outer join. So left join means the left table. So our customers table, all records will come. And in the right table, what are the matches are there? Only those will come. The remaining will not come. Whereas outer join means see here. Did you see wherever there is no match also you are getting like references? So even in the left side also, if there is no match also you are getting. So that is the difference between inner join and outer join. Inner join means just think like a intersection. So if both are like matching, it will come. So within that, so that's the reason I showed you these images. If you remember these joins, you will better remember that. So fine. Next, going for that, after that, we have one more thing is about the saving data. As we have seen, say like I have some data which I'm taking IMDb movies. So I took like 3 columns out of it. And every time when I want to save, I just create a directory. In that directory only, I'm seeing every time. So, this is more important. Whenever you want to save, as same like in series, here also we have like 2 CSV, 2 JSON, so 2 Parquet, all formats are there. 2C, Excel, so everything is there. So any data, once it becomes a data frame, it will ensure how to convert. You need not worry. So if I do a CSV, it will convert a CSV file. During the conversion, if I say index equal to false, in the CSV, you don't get the columns. Similarly, to JSON means it will convert to JSON and do it. Similarly, for Excel, when you're working, this XLRD module is needed. So after that, it will create it. So similarly, here also index equal to false. Here, I don't know like what is the error which happened. Yeah, it is saying that I don't have XLS. If I install that module, that will work. And similarly to HTML, we can do. So to Parquet, we can do different file formats. Just give it a try. If you have any issue, let me know. And similarly, in terms of cleaning, I just showed some kind of cleaning operation. Similarly, if you have some data like this, and you can clean it. So imdb.columns.str. So previously I showed applying one function on a particular column. But for all the functions, if you want to do something, so this is most commonly I use it. Whenever you do a data pre-processing, so first and foremost, in columns, if there are any of the white spaces in middle in the column names, then I will replace it like this. So columns.strings.lower.strings of means this what it is doing. If there are any columns which have like white spaces in middle, you see here movie title is there. There is a space in middle. Movie director name space in middle. Title here is there. There is a space in middle. If you do have like that, you cannot access easily. So that's the reason I replaced it. Then like if you want to drop something or add something and do operations, you need to understand this one. Axis 0 means like so rows. Axis 1 means columns. And if I say like hey drop of this thing, axis is equal to 1 in place equal to true. What you're saying drop columns. Directors you want to drop in which axis row. Did you see that? You can see axis 1, sorry, columns. If you don't give also by default it will do like that only. So you see director name called as James Cameron so and so. Did you see in the output there is no more James Cameron director names? So that's how you dropped, okay, by an axis. And similarly, if you want to handle the missing values, sometimes durations are not mentioned. See here, this is most important. When are you doing cleansing? So there are two functions called as isNull and isNaN. So to detect missing values, Pandas provides both the functions. And if I say isNull, it will check for the entire data frame everywhere the values are null or not. See, for this column it is null, so it is true. It is true because for only these two are like none, right? For all others it is false. So if you do a dot sum right now, it is saying like overall. Movie titles, are there any null? No. So durations, any null? Yes. How many nulls are there? All this information it is giving. Similarly for duration, which are is null, you want to get them. Now did you see? For all the things, whoever having a duration none. So you got all the values. And if you want to get only the values within that, which are not null, see here, is null means you get only null values. If I say not null means the reverse. Only those values you want means you filtered. So what are null values are there you don't want. It is same like using like is equal to false. So finally now you ask, there is no more records with null values like this. So right in the durations, but still in the year there is null values. So in that case, like, so if you instead of deleting all those rows or for a specific rows, if there is a null, if you want to fill with something, so you can do like fill now. Fill now means fill the null values with something. Say fill null values I want to fill with a mean value, or like null values I want to fill with something else. What are I want to fill, I need to write it here. So I think some issue there. So in that process, something, but like it works. And similarly, if you have a dot duplicate of subsect equal to none means, so all columns it is counting and checking for any duplicates. If there are any duplicates and if you want to remove them. So, and also there is an option like keeping the first one or last one, all those things we can do for duplicates. And finally you get something. And if you want to do like drop duplicates, you see here. So keep first or keep last. So whichever you can means. If I say keep first, the first occurrence will be there. The next occurrences will be deleted. And similarly, so you have some cleansing function, which I showed earlier also. If you want to do transformations for the rows and others, you can do it. So there are like multiple other things that we can do like this. I gave a list of files. And apart from that, I gave some kind of exercises also. for you to understand, like EDS. So just walk through it. So like these were like some couple of examples, like so FIFA 19, 2019, so analysis, like getting the data set and understanding like how people have performed, what is the shape of total data set, what are the columns we have. So I want to do the cleansing. So basic cleansing I did. So the zeroth column I don't want. Then like in the age I'm describing, the average mean age is like 25 for the people who are a perform. And like in terms of age, if I do an ascending order equal to false, means in terms of age. So who are is the highest age? So those people are coming, right? Age 45 is the max age. So 45, 44, 43, like that. So and like by age, if you want to sort and do an in place changes. So this is how people do the analysis, EDA. So exploratory data analysis. It's called as EDA. So why we learn this is that as a data engineer, you need to do the exploratory data analysis. Exploratory data analysis. So if you do like Python, there are many modules are there for working on it. You can make use of it. And the last point, you can just walk through this. It can help you. And one thing I want to showcase is that there's something called as Mito. Mito is like something. Yeah, I can show you here. Yeah, Mito. So try Mito. Mito is like one of the frameworks which recently came, where you just create it and you dump your sheet, your Excel file or CSV file. It will only do all the analysis and give you the results. So you can understand what to do with that. So that is one of the ways. So like that, there are many Pandas based modules also there. If you see, there is something called as Pandas tutor. So I have a data set, it is loading and it is doing something. And if I want to understand in this Pandas tutor, I can just reload this page. So if you do like, it will show analysis of how many records are there, what it is using, like that. If I click on the visualize server, you see, it will showcase that. See, what is that happening? It is saying like, this is how we created the columns and we are getting. So all the point is they are reading a data frame and then they are getting one column out of it. Each column within a data frame is again a series. So that's the reason I explained series first and then this thing. So both are interrelated. If you want any analysis for small things, you can analyze. Like they have given basic examples for you to understand, like how a filtering works, how a merging works. If I click on merge, how do data frames are merged? So that information they are showing. You see, there are two tables are there, how the common values are merged. And similarly, if you ask for like pivot, how the pivot works, means from one table, another table, how you create the pivot. So, or like you have like a drop columns, how the dropping of the columns works. So if you want to visualize how they are dropping the columns based upon a condition. So how the code is working, you will understand. Similarly, there are one more thing. Yes, yeah, I have some pandas. So there were a lot of modules which are created on top of these pandas. You can make use of them to understand. So this Amazon Pandas has a list of all the modules, books, resources, and any modules which are there. So any cheat sheets about these pandas. So it's one place where you can understand all about these pandas. So and next one is like there is something called as pi arrow, so which is like brewing a lot. So in terms of pi and a paras, if you see, it is next thing that is brewing a lot. So you can learn with it. You can make use of this to understand.